If your knee range of motion is limited, either from a recent injury or a recent surgery, the exercises in this video can help you to increase that range of motion and eliminate pain. My name is Dr. Jared, and normal knee range of motion is 0 degrees of extension or all the way out straight, up to about 135 degrees of flexion or knee bend. Now, please keep in mind that these are general recommendations, that your individual ranges of motion might fall outside of this. As a general rule, we would measure the asymptomatic side, and then that establishes our goals for the symptomatic side. Or after surgery, after injury, we just want both knees to eventually be the same. But before we jump into these exercises, it's crucial that I make two very important points. Point number one, if you recently had surgery, you must follow the post-operative protocol put in place by your surgeon as you gradually increase your ranges of motion. For example, on the screen right now are some general recommendations for general surgeries that are performed. You can see that with most of them, we want to get to 0 degrees of extension or all the way straight pretty quickly. However, you can see that the recommendations for flexion vary based on what procedure was performed. This is so that we can give those repaired structures adequate time to heal without stressing them out too early. For example, you can see that if you had a meniscus injury, we're not going to bend the knee past 90 degrees for about the first 4 to 6 weeks. So please keep that in mind. If it's been less than about 8 weeks since your surgery, I need you to still follow that protocol to protect your knee and give you the best outcomes possible. Crucial point number two is that I want stretching to be uncomfortable, but not necessarily unbearable. I tell people I want you to push to the point of pain, but you don't want to push into pain. If it's very painful, if there are tears streaming down your face while you're doing these stretches, that tells me that you're pushing too far. We might be causing additional damage, we might be causing additional swelling, and we're actually just delaying the healing time overall. I would rather you back off the intensity and increase the frequency. So hold them a little longer, do them a little more regularly throughout the day. That's how you make progress overall. Okay, all of that being said, let's jump in with these exercises. Let's start with 4 of the best exercises to increase knee extension or to get that leg out all the way straight. Number 1 is going to be a quad set, and in my opinion, this is one of the most important, not only to get your knee out straight, but to also work on the mind-muscle connection with your quad muscle right here on your thigh. You're going to sit with your leg extended. If that is painful, you can get a small rolled up towel and put it right under here to support your knee. Now what I want you to do is fire this muscle right here on the top of your quad to push that knee down into the towel or down into the floor. You're going to hold that contraction in your quad for about 5 to 10 seconds, and then you're going to relax. As your pain improves and as your range of motion improves, we can get rid of the towel to introduce more extension. And eventually, I even like to put the towel under the heel to introduce even more extension into the knee. You're going to repeat this about 10 to 15 times, and then you can do this all day long. I usually recommend about 4 to 5 times a day. I know it's not always convenient to get down onto the floor, so you can actually do these quad sets seated as well. Scoot to the edge of your chair and extend your leg out in front of you with your heel on the ground, and now everything else looks the same. We're going to contract that quad, hold it for 5 to 10 seconds, and then relax, and then repeat that 10 to 15 times. Exercise number 2 is incredibly simple yet incredibly effective. This is a heel prop exercise. Simply put, you're going to prop your heel up on a couple of pillows, on a rolled up towel. I have a foam roller. We're just going to put the heel right up on top of that and then let the weight of your leg push that knee down into extension. This is what we call a low load, long duration stretch. I actually want you to hold this for maybe 5 minutes initially, but work up to about 10 minutes. If you need even more intensity, you can grab a book, you can grab a bag, you can grab a small hand weight, put that right above your knee so that it pushes your knee down into additional extension. Again, on this one, the recommendation is that we want to hold it for longer, maybe just a couple of times in your day. Work into holding this for about 10 minutes, a couple of times a day. Now, as you gain strength and control, we want to progress exercises to upright and weight bearing. These last two extension exercises are a perfect way to do that. The first one is called a terminal knee extension, or TKE. It does require a big resistance loop. If you don't have access to one, I've got these linked in the description below. But you're going to anchor that to a sturdy structure in front of you, put your leg in the loop, and then put it right up here behind your knee. Now step backwards until we have a decent amount of pull on the back of your knee into this slight flexion angle. Now from here, I'm just going to activate that quad muscle to push my leg straight against the resistance of that band. So basically, this is a way that we can add resistance to those quad sets. I would hold there for about 2 to 3 seconds and then slowly return to that starting position. So we're gonna fire that quad, push into that resistance from the band to straighten the knee out, and then introduce that flexion again. 3 sets of about 10 reps is a great number to shoot for on that. Now, if you don't have the band, I recommend that we try some backwards walking. And so what we're going to do is take a step backwards with the affected leg, get the heel all the way down as soon as you can, and then perform a quad set to straighten out that knee. Accept your weight onto that foot and then come back and match it with the asymptomatic leg. And so we're going to step backwards, get the heel down, really forcing that leg to be all the way straight into full extension. Hold that quad nice and strong as we accept that weight onto it, and then repeat for about 10 to 15 steps. And then we're going to repeat that lap about 3 times. Now let's talk about the best exercises to increase the amount of flexion or bend in your knee. Keep in mind that generally we're trying to achieve about 135 degrees unless you've had a knee replacement. If you've had a knee replacement, normal flexion goes down to about 120 degrees. So just keep that in mind as, again, some general recommendations. The easiest way to start to work on this is going to be with just a supine knee flexion stretch. Go ahead and lie down on your back, and now what I want you to do is try to bend your knee in this position. And a lot of times for beginners, if you even just hold it right here and kind of let gravity work on it, that seems to be a simple way to introduce a pain-free flexion motion to it. But when your motion increases, or if you need to be a little more aggressive with it, we can then take our hands, put our hands right here on top of the shin, and then just introduce more flexion as much as pain will allow. And so take it into a comfortable range. We're gonna hold that for about 20 seconds and then repeat that 3 times. You can also perform this flexion stretch seated. You're going to bend your knee as much as you can, and then with your hands, scoot your hips forward to introduce more flexion into your knee. This is a simple way to increase and work on the bend, especially initially after surgery. Now, as pain and range of motion increase, I like to introduce a kneeling flexion stretch, but I do understand that this isn't necessarily for everybody, but this is what it would look like. We're going to get on all fours. I'm weight bearing through my arms as well as through my legs. And then nice and slowly, I can try to sit down towards my heels as much as pain and range of motion will allow. Take it to where it's a good, comfortable stretch, hold for 20 seconds, come out of it, and then the goal is to introduce a little bit more of a bend with subsequent repetitions. So 3 times, about 20-second holds is a great number to shoot for. One great way to increase flexion range of motion is to increase active flexion. And so let me show you an exercise to do that, where we're going to engage the hamstring muscles to pull the knee into a bend. You're going to lie down on your back. I'd like to keep the other leg bent. The leg that we're working on is going to be extended out straight. Now, if you're on a hardwood or tile floor, a sock works well, or a towel underneath your heel. If you're on a carpeted floor, you can put a paper plate underneath your heel, but then the exercise looks like this. I'm just going to slide my heel as much as I can up towards my backside until I get a good stretch. hold for about 3 to 5 seconds, and then slide right back down straight again. And then we're going to repeat this for reps. Typically, I recommend about 10 to 15 repetitions on this. Again, hold it up in that maximum flex position as long as you can, 2 to 3 seconds, and then slowly return right back down. Hey, have you tried any of the exercises in this video so far? And if so, how are we doing? How's the knee feeling? Leave me a comment down below. I always love to hear from you. Hit the thumbs up button if you have gotten some benefit out of this video. And thank you so much for supporting me and for supporting Tone and Tighten. Our last exercise to work on flexion is once again with the goal of progressing to standing, upright weight bearing, introducing a little strength as well. These are going to be some squats. And so I always like to start with what we would call mini squats. So in a nice safe position, what we can do is just introduce a little bit of bend into the knee and then return back to upright. As strength and tolerance increase, I like to introduce the chair, and then we're just going to come down into a squat until we just barely touch the chair. I don't want you to plop down into the seat, but slow and in control on the way down until we get the cue, and then just stand right back up. So as soon as my butt touches the chair, that's my cue to engage the quads and return right back up. Usually sets of 10, about 3 sets of 10 is what I recommend. And then eventually we even want to get rid of the chair so that we can sink down lower into the squat to introduce even more range of motion and more strengthening. I hope these help to increase your knee range of motion and help your knee to feel amazing. Thank you so much for watching.